President and CEO of the Business Council of Westchester. It's our pleasure to welcome you to the first County Executive Debate of 2017. It's a very momentous occasion, and it's an honor for the Business Council of Westchester to host this debate at this beautiful SL Green Rexon building. Many thanks to the entire team, Larry Quiet, and the entire team here. We have several organizations and businesses that have really stepped up to the plate to sponsor this event. My sincere thanks to Deb Malone and Alan Dillon from the Hudson Valley Gateway Chamber of Commerce, to Nicholas and Lens Communications, to PKF O'Connor Davies, Matt McCrossan, and your team, to Rob Ranieri at Rose & Kiernan, and of course to our entire board of directors who supports everything that we do. It's my pleasure to introduce, first of all, let me just say before I introduce Lee, that today is a Business Council of Westchester event. We want to be respectful of both candidates, and our expectation is that we will enjoy a good discussion. However, if we feel that any individual is being disruptive, then that person will be asked to leave. Enthusiasm for your candidate is different than disrespecting the rights of others in the room to hear from both candidates. With that said, Dr. Lee Maringoff is our moderator tonight. He is the director of the Marist Institute for Public Opinion, MIPO, and is a member of the Political Science faculty at Marist College. He received his Bachelor of Arts from Clark University, his PhD in Political Science from Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT. He is the former president of the National Council of Public Polls and a current member of the Board of Trustees. He is also a trustee of the Roper Center for Public Opinion Research. With Marist Poll Director Barbara Cavallo, Lee directs the NBC News, Wall Street Journal, Marist Poll, the MSNBC Telemundo, Marist Poll, and the NPR PBS Hour Marist Poll. Lee and Barbara oversee the Marist Poll's collaboration with HBO's Real Sports with Brian Gumbel. As a Marist graduate and someone who started my career at Marist, I'm so pleased to introduce my good friend, Lee Maringoff.
Any pauses in our production will edit out. Do you want the two candidates to come in at this point?
Let me just check. I believe so.
There are arm wrestling in the hall.
Go through the rules first.
Oh, sure, I can do that. I can do that. They know the rules, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. Start with that. Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to moderate this debate, and I'm ably assisted, and I hope you agree with this, by 7 o'clock tonight by our two timekeepers, Barbara Carvalho and Mary Griffith of the Marist Poll. This is not their day job, so they will be trying to keep order and keep me on time. And of course, thanks to Marcia and the Business Council for inviting us to be part of this for the third time. And welcome to all of you. Shortly, County Executive Rob Astorino and State Senator George Latimer will be joining us, and this is the first face-to-face debate between them. And we're looking forward, as Marcia said, to an informative, issue-focused discussion. We welcome those of you in attendance, those who are watching on Facebook, and then other Westchester residents who will learn about the issues that was discussed today. So, here are the rules. We already had the flip of the coin, and Mr. Astorino, actually Mr. Latimer won the toss, and he went to go second, and Mr. Astorino decided to defend this podium. So we're doing this very much like sports. They thought that was fun. And the opening statement will go to Mr. Estorino first, followed by Mr. Latimer's opening statement. Mr. Estorino will be asked the first question. You will have 90 seconds for that answer. You get this as we go along. Mr. Latimer will be given a 2-minute rebuttal, which provides opportunity to rebut the first comment, and then also to provide his answer. And then the original person, in this case, Mr. Estorino, will have 30 seconds to sum up the question. And then we're going to rotate the order, question, rebuttal, and comment between the candidates. And Mr. Latimer, as I indicated, will get the final word in a 2-minute closing statement. After Mr. Estorino's finished his closing statements, there will be time for question and answer following the closing statements, but before the end of the debate, obviously. Now, both candidates will be paying a lot of attention to the timekeeper because they don't want to hear the buzzer. Okay, there will be a buzzer, and I ask you to hold your applause to the end so we can get as much time in with the candidates. So I think with that, we can get started. And is there an order that they're entering? Both of you. Both of you. Leadership. There was supposed to be a picture, Marshall. So ready to start?
I think we can start.
Okay, so why don't we begin, and the county executive, Mr. Estorino, gets the first opening statement. This will be 2 minutes. Mr. Estorino.
Thank you, Lee. First of all, thank you for being here tonight. I want to thank the Business Council for their partnership in our 8 years. Dr. Marsha Gordon, thank you very, very much. Tony and the entire board and John Ravitz. And thank you for being here tonight. Of course, George, thank you. It's good to be with you, and we look forward to a spirited debate in the next hour. You know, when I ran in 2009, I ran for a purpose. This county had been spiraling out of control. Taxes were accumulating, driving people out, small businesses. We saw big businesses leaving, like Blue Sky Studios, Starwood Hotels. And when I came into office, I ran for one reason, to stop the tax madness. And we have done that. We're righting the ship here in Westchester County. And I go by what we call the 3 Ps. Protecting taxpayers, we've done that. Preserving essential services, and promoting economic development. And those are sort of our guiding star in everything that we've done along the way. Now, protecting taxpayers, we have not raised the county tax levy in the entire 7 years, with an 8th on deck. In fact, we cut the county levy by 2%, from $560 million to $548 million. That's indisputable. The second part, preserving essential services, I know can be subjective, but we have made sure that we got rid of the waste, and we've actually put money into the services and making sure it gets to the people who need it. Our social services department has topped a $600 million budget for the first time ever. And promoting economic development, and I would argue that's the most important of the 3 because that's how you pay for the first 2. And that is how you have an economy that grows. You have an increase in population, which we've had because people actually want to come here. So we dealt with a crisis when we first came in, spiraling taxes, $166 million deficit. That was my first gift as the county executive and having to deal with that. And we got through it. And we've got a strong economy in here in Westchester, one of the lowest unemployment rates all of New York State. Things are moving in the right direction, and that's why I continue to go to work with a smile every day for every challenge ahead.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Latimer, your opening statement, and that will also be 2 minutes.
Thank you very much. I'm George Latimer, the Democratic candidate for Westchester County Executive. I want to thank the Business Council of Westchester for making this debate an opportunity for all of us to participate in. This county is at a crossroads. And as much as I'd like to think that this is morning in America, it isn't. We're in a very dangerous situation. In the next 4 years, the decisions we make in the next 4 years will drive the train in the correct direction or in the inappropriate direction. Rob Estorino, who I like as a person, has mismanaged this government. He has decimated the operating departments of this government so it does not function effectively to deliver the services that are necessary. We have a planning department, a DPW department that are a shell of what they used to be. We're dealing with one-shots to finance our budgets. We don't have a surplus. we have a $15 million hole that we have to plug because we could not deliver that budget in a balanced fashion. We have labor obligations that continue to grow year after year that have not been addressed, and they represent a potential day of reckoning ahead of us. And we've been borrowing from ongoing expenses. We've been involved in things as esoteric as tax anticipation notes since the beginning of this administration, which have only grown. And it's given us a level of fiscal stress that rates us 53rd out of 57 counties in terms of our fiscal health and our fiscal responsibility. Now, you can take $4 million and you can pummel me with TV ads and with printed ads. And of course, that's politics. But those ads can't change the crisis that we face. And the choice before you, if you're a voter, and anybody in Westchester County is, what do you want to happen in the next 4 years? I'm committed to being county executive for the next 4 years, to work through these difficulties, to work through these problems intelligently, the same way that I did when I was chairman of the Westchester County Board of Legislators. And I did that on a bipartisan basis, working with both sides of the aisle, working with the business community, working with all the different players in the game. And without the entourage, without the impressive thinking process that goes into this. So I'm prepared tonight to debate each of these issues forcefully and intelligently and give you a reason to support me this November 7th.
Okay, thank you very much. We're going to have the first question will be on the economy, a little bit more detailed, and it will go to Mr. Astorino. Westchester's economic health and vitality are critically important to the county's future, given a highly competitive economic environment. What is your plan as the county executive, which would be for the third term, to retain and attract businesses to the county and to assure that there's a well-trained labor force to match employment needs?
Well, first off, let's talk about what we have done. When we first got in, as I said, people were leaving, including many businesses. PepsiCo was on the verge of leaving to go to Texas. We worked with them, they stayed here, they doubled down on their corporate headquarters. That's a great story and great news. In the 7 years since we've been county executive, we have one of the lowest unemployment rates in all of New York State. We also have had 44,000 new private sector jobs being created in this county, and I'll tell you why. Because we did what business needs, that's predictability. We focused on arresting the tax increases that were driving businesses and people out, and as a result, we cut the county property tax levy 2% and held it flat for the next 6 years. That's a certainty that they need. We've also worked out with our labor unions contracts that they could live with, but we've been very aggressive in promoting economic development. Our local development corporation, as well as our industrial development agency, has been absolutely energized in going out and creating jobs and helping things like healthcare, White Plains Hospital, the medical center. All this construction is because we worked with them as we're supposed to do and gave them some of the sales tax exemptions that they need to create jobs and expand the economy. And that goes for little businesses too. We also have worked very well with some of our small businesses and giving them the tools that they need, because we do have some of the expertise and we can work with them to create the capital that they need, which is oftentimes what is the biggest obstacle for both women and minority business institutes and enterprises, as well as small businesses.
Rebuttal would be 2 minutes to Mr. Latimer.
Well, there's a fluid number here in terms of how many new jobs have been developed during this administration. Rob has said at a various point in time there were 55,000 new jobs. Now he said 44,000. I saw an ad that said 40,000. The New York State Department of Labor says that over the course of this administration, 20,500 jobs were created. That's less than half of the amount that he's pointing to. And that was because we began that administration at the end of the Great Recession, when jobs were at a low end and starting to rise. So I think the real issue here is, what are we doing constructively to work with the business community? Not to try to set up a New York City office that really has no functional purpose to help us grow business development. Had to close it up because it wasn't performing that function. The things that we need to focus on in this county, as the county government working as a partner with the business community, because this is not going to be done by government, it's going to be done in a partnership. It's going to be focusing on our institutions of higher education, our healthcare institutions, to try to make sure that they retain and grow and build a source of that growth around the healthcare industry and around the education industry. We're going to have to look more aggressively at our infrastructures, our roads, our bridges, and the infrastructure that we need to put in place, such as broadband, so that everywhere in Westchester County where business can come into, they know that they would have a selling advantage over Bergen and Passaic and Rockland and Nassau County, because in Westchester we would have the best possible connection for them. Our transportation, our affordable housing. Businesses won't move here if the bulk of their workforce don't have the opportunity to live in a housing situation that they can afford. And how we regulatorily streamline what we do, working with the local governments to try to change that process to make it easier for businesses to function, and how we target our IDA benefits. All of those things are necessary going forward. And we're going to be working in a very competitive environment because every other county and every other city is ramping up their efforts. And I think we need to do more. I think we need to do better.
And the next 30 seconds to you, sir.
Okay, how do you build an economy that moves, that businesses want to come in or stay? It's because, first of all, you're business friendly, and we are. Previous administration and the Board of Legislators that were led by George Latimer were not. That's why they decided to leave. We work with the business community. But the biggest thing we did is we held the line on taxes. That helps small businesses. That helps the big companies come in as well. When George Latimer was on the county board, for those 12 years, they raised the taxes 46%, chasing out businesses and people with it. The budget exploded from $1.1 billion to $1.5 billion. Our budget is $1.8 billion today, the same as it was when I walked in the door. That's the kind of certainty that businesses look for.
Good. It works. We'll turn to Indian Point, and the question will go to Mr. Latimer. As many of you are aware, there's significant policy questions for the county with the impending shutdown of Indian Point, from how to make up for the loss of power, the potential environmental impact of moving to fossil fuels, and the fiscal impact of the departure of energy from the area. What would your plan be for handling this during the transition?
Well, I think what the county executive has to do, and he's not done this to this point, is he needs to understand that it's going to be leadership at the county executive level with the town of Cortland, with the village of Buchanan, with the Henrik Hudson School District, that together puts together a plan, and that will go to the state government and to the extent that the federal government will help us to get resources from that level of government. We've done a very poor job of interacting with the state from a county standpoint. We have had much more of a battle with the state governor and with the Senate Republicans and the Assembly Democrats than we need to have. That type of rhetoric does not help us get the resources we need. And Cortland and Buchanan and Henrik Hudson School District will need a certain amount of money to help make them whole, at least in the short term. And then in the long term, the replacement jobs for the individuals, the 1,000 some odd workers, and they can be repurposed. The Teamsters who are based there, the 200 some odd members there, as many of those as determined that they're going to stay in New York, have training at a high level of security, and that can be repurposed in New York State because we need security at a high level at a host of other places. But the way you're not going to do it is by launching a secret lawsuit in which you give the impression that somehow you're going to be able to reverse a business decision that Entergy made. Entergy made a business decision knowing how much capital had to go into that physical plant, also knowing the difficulties of marketing energy at the level of cost that it takes to do it from a nuclear level, given the low commodity prices of natural gas. That is practical business reality. So you don't get there with rhetoric, you get there with cooperative work and working effectively with the local governments and so forth. In the few minutes of time in the future, I want to address the last question.
Okay, and Mr. Estorino, you have 2 minutes on the rebuttal on.
Well, what we're doing with regard to energy here in Westchester, and I'll talk about Indian Point, is we have incentivized for solar, and we have record solar panel installations in this county. We are part of the Green Business Challenge. We are part of Sustainable Westchester. So we're doing our part on a local level to have that mix. However, Indian Point is 25% of the energy for Westchester and New York City. That's a lot. We already pay the highest electric rates in the continental United States behind Hawaii. They're all going up. Our rates are going to go through the roof because the governor, as well as Entergy and Riverkeeper, cut a deal in the middle of the night that nobody knew of to shut down the plant. Now, my lawsuit is not necessarily to keep the plant open. At this point, it's probably going to close. And we do have to work towards how we're going to replace that. But no environmental laws were followed. There's something called State Environmental Quality Review Act. It triggers everything. We literally changed the name from Muscoot Farm to the Alfred B. Del Bello Muscoot Farm. 15 letters. We had to do an environmental review. But Indian Point, closing a nuclear power plant and leaving waste behind for anywhere from 60 years to infinity, and there's no environmental review that needs to be done. So yeah, I was the lone voice standing up because the people's voice was completely taken out of this, because a part of SECRA means they've got to say what mitigating factors, how are they going to make up for that energy, how the jobs at Indian Point as well as the related jobs, over 2,000, how that's going to be made up in taxes. It's going to devastate Hendrick-Hudson School District, the town of Cortland, the village of Buchanan, and Westchester gets money too. And the energy that we need to stay competitive in business to actually attract the Amazons of the world, where are they going to plug into? So none of these questions have been answered, and they won't have to answer them unless they're forced to through a State Environmental Quality Review Act. So yeah, I'm going to take a position that's going to force them to do what they're supposed to do, follow the environmental laws, so everyone here is protected.
And your 30 seconds.
There's a task force at hand right now. Linda Puglisi and the other local elected officials are working through these very issues. All the county executive has to do is include himself and his administration in that process, and all these very issues are what's going to be worked out. Let's talk about taxes. Rob mentioned that we had a 46% tax increase over a 13-year period of time, less than 4% a year. During his tenure in the exact same years in the town council in Mount Pleasant, he raised taxes 36%. And if you add the 16% that he raised in school taxes, that's 52%. Now, if I had $4 million, you'd know those facts.
Okay, let's turn to the budget. 2018 county budget already in the works. Looking ahead to the next 4 years, and this question is to Mr. Astorino. What are your priorities, and how do you see revenues and expenditures in the county evolving over the next 4 years?
Well, we can't do what George Latimer has already said he would do, and that's raise taxes, because that's all he's ever done in his career. It's the easiest way, it's the laziest way. It's not the way where you can take revenue from other assets and not have to raise taxes, which is what we have done. The North 60, for instance, is a great economic development project. We're going to have a biotech village with healthcare on the Grasslands Reservation. That's going to bring rent and taxes into the county for many, many years to come. And that's the way you hold the line on taxes. The airport privatization, public-private partnership, that is another opportunity, if we talk about it tonight, where the county can use its asset, keep the airport the exact same size it is, under the same restraints, and yet be able to keep taxes down because we'll actually get revenue from there instead of keeping it at the airport. Those are the things that you have to do to challenge yourself. Now, George Latimer has never met a tax he didn't like. He has taxed us through the roof in the county. I mean, we can talk about what we did in the 21st century, not the 20th century. So in the county legislature, what he has done, well, he had a leadership position, and he chose to tax. And he's taxed in Albany, the MTA payroll tax, even a 5-cent tax on plastic bags, hotel tax, business taxes, you name it, he has taxed it. And to his credit, he has said he'll raise taxes in the future. So we know what we're going to get from him. The biggest thing, though, is what we're not going to get, which we haven't gotten for the last 5 years, is George Latimer paying his property taxes. That is a very big issue. If you're going to raise taxes on people, at least pay your own taxes. And in the meantime, he gave himself a 27% pay hike while he was raising taxes on everybody. That's unconscionable.
I have a feeling we're going to hear about that. Mr. Latimer, your 2 minutes.
It's almost as unconscionable as the 53% pay raise that Rob Astorino voted for himself when he was in local government. And it's also as unconscionable as him attacking my family when he made a point in his gubernatorial race about a candidate attacking his family. I own one piece of land in Westchester County, 47 Wainwright Street, Rye, New York. You can look it up. All the taxes are paid. What he would like to do is take a family dispute that's a personal matter that I'm not a party to and try to attach it to me with all of his deadbeat types of stuff. Now let's talk about the taxes that we had to deal with individually. As a state legislator, we have cut state income taxes to the lowest level for middle-class taxpayers that it's been in the last 60 years. Those are 2 actual votes that I've taken in the state legislature. And the state MTA payroll tax has been reduced because there was a crisis, in case Rob forgot, at the end of 2009, which was called the Great Recession. And if we did not do something about the MTA costs, you would have had a doubling of the commutation fare. What do you think would happen to your executive efforts to attract business to Westchester County if a $150 commutation ticket became a $300 ticket under the Rob Astorino plan? So when you're looking at taxes, you need to look at the whole picture of taxes. And if you want to stay in the 20th century, let's stay in the 20th century, the 21st century, because in the years to come, you will be paying a Rob Astorino tax long after Rob Astorino is gone. He has deferred costs for a host of different issues that aren't yet hitting the screen, but they will be. And whether your children are in the property or your grandchildren are in the property, you'll remember Rob's tenure because you'll be paying higher taxes for it. That's what happens when you borrow. The first time that we've ever seen borrowing for certiorari's, borrowing for pension costs. Rob Astorino has brought that to Westchester County. You have to determine in the next 4 years how you're going to straighten that mess out. He's going to be off running to Oswego, Owego. He's not going to be here in Westchester County to solve these problems. I'm going to be here to fight through these problems because I grew up in this county and I love this county and I pay my taxes.
But when I go to Ossining, they thank me for not raising their taxes. And when I go to Ossining, they say, why isn't George Latimer paying these taxes? And here's the issue, George, because you don't get to play the victim on this. We all have to pay our taxes. There is no special break for Albany politicians. That was a life estate that was deeded to you and your wife when it died, when your mother-in-law died. And this is absolutely a public policy issue. You either pay those taxes or you don't. It's not something that's happened 6 months. This is going on for 5 years. 5 years and $46,000 and counting.
Do we get a chance to rebut?
Yeah, I was going to go another 30 seconds on this part. Can you do it? All right, we'll do 30 and 30.
Let me repeat what I've just said. I don't own the property that's under question. Rob would like to attach it to me because it's a really good political attack. It just happens to be a lie. And he is a very good politician. He knows how to lie and repeat the lie enough to try to make you think it's the truth. But that land is owned by my wife, and she's in the middle of a family dispute. How many of you have had a family dispute over inherited property? That's exactly what she's dealing with right now. So the bottom line is I pay the taxes on the property that I own in Westchester County, and if we want to get personal, it's really a sad day. I didn't realize that the path to the governorship goes through the gutter.
30 seconds.
Now, first of all, you listed this asset on your financial filings and your ethics disclosure
Because we're
forms with the
supposed to
state.
include spouses' separate property
Correct.
as well as your individual.
Correct.
Okay.
And
You
also-
know that.
Mr. Latimer, on
I
this
have to
time.
correct. I have
Okay.
to correct something when he mistakes it. You've got to know the
You
truth.
just did.
Okay.
Good.
Then you were confronted by reporters the other day, and you said it's part of an estate. There is no estate. There is nothing in surrogate court. Nothing. There's no probate issue. The minute that property was transferred to you and your wife in 2012, taxes were due by the owners of the property. So you can spin it all you want. You can say whatever you
You're the
want.
spin doctor,
And I'll tell you
Rob.
what, if
And you're good at
we had a issue in our family where we inherited a second home in Rye, we'd all like a second home in Rye, and we had problems paying the taxes, which people do at times. You sell the property and you pay the taxes. Right now, the students in Rye City School District are being cheated out by $35,000. That's what you owe the City of Rye School District. The town and county, you owe money too. At some point, they have to be paid.
Let's move on. I think you both got a chance to weigh in on this.
I'm sure we will again.
And you may very well. We're going to turn to the airport, which has been mentioned earlier, and the future of the Westchester County Airport. The county executives, and this will be your question, Mr. Latimer. The county executive's proposal for a public-private partnership, which was alluded to earlier, to operate the airport, along with the proposed master plan has stirred a lot of debate. What do you see as the challenges and opportunities of the public-private approach, and what is your vision for the long-term future of the Westchester County Airport?
This deal is not about a public-private partnership. You have privatization at the airport already. You have a private organization that administers the airport at the direction of Westchester County government. This is about a bad deal. And anybody in this room that's a business person looks at this deal and sees a front-loaded deal with $15 million in the first year, 4 years of $5 million, and then 35 years of $2 million payments. That's not a deal. That's somebody hocked something. And I think that was because Rob could not deliver a balanced budget. He had a $15 million hole, and he figured a way to break open a piggy bank. Now, there's a book by Donald Trump called The Art of the Deal. I'm going to leave this for Rob because I think you ought to read it. Maybe there's something in here that Donald Trump could tell him, because he does listen to Donald Trump on a wide variety of issues. Something could tell him about cutting a better deal than $15 million in deal one, in year one, and then 35 years of $2 million. Here's the future of Westchester County Airport. To honor the commitment that Andy O'Rourke made, that Al Del Bello and Andy Spano and the various respected boards of legislators, to keep that a small regional airport, not to expand it and let Connecticut come in and turn it into LaGuardia North. That is not good for the business community. The business community wants access to that airport for general aviation. You will lose that if you expand that airport. He tried already to change the passenger cap, which tells you his mindset. He accepted a master plan that pretended that the restrictions in place didn't exist. So it tells you what he wants to do. What he wants to do is expand the airport. And anybody who lives near that airport should know that's the Rob Astorino plan. It is an expansion plan.
Okay, and 2 minutes, sir.
Okay, first of all, I live near the airport. When they fly west, they go over my house. So the last thing I want, my wife wants, is any expansion at the airport. I'm going to get to the airport in a second. I just want to read something because I'd love George to answer this. His spokesman in 2014, when he viciously attacked his opponent in 2014, who was having problems with paying his mortgage, which it came out after the election, George had problems on his primary house that he owns now. And this was the quote that they said: "State government has enough problems without adding a person like the previous candidate who doesn't take responsibility for paying his own taxes and can't manage his own finances." Do you stand by that quote? And doesn't it apply to you?
I didn't make that
So
quote,
now
Bob.
let me finish my question
It's nice
about
for
the
you to
airport.
take a quote from
Let me-
somebody else.
can I
and attach
finish?
it to me.
Let's pause. I'm going to give you a few seconds
Now
to
you
respond to
can
that.
respond
It's a
when it's your
personal
turn.
attack, I'm not going to accept it.
Yeah, I will give you a chance to respond.
Let me talk about the airport now. George knows very well because he was a county legislator for 12 years.
Right.
All of the revenue that comes into the airport by federal law must stay there. You can't use that revenue for anything. Under a 1996 law signed by President Clinton, 10 airports, small and medium sized around the country, can enter this public-private partnership, which allows you to use revenue and use it for general purposes. For us, it could be parks, it could be police, it could be daycare, it could be whatever. But that's a way where you keep taxes stable by using an asset you have. Now, the lease that would be signed and approved by the Board of Legislators would make sure that whoever wins this would have to abide by the terms of the lease. And it's not a one-shot, it's just the opposite. It's a 40-year revenue stream, an annuity, if you will, for the taxpayers of Westchester. There cannot be any addition to the runway. No length of the runway can be changed. There cannot be a new terminal built. There cannot be a piercing of the passenger cap, 240 per half hour and about 11,500 per day. That can't be changed. So when he's saying it's going to be LaGuardia North, the biggest thing about LaGuardia is the gates. They have 72 gates. We have 4 plus 2. 4 bridged where you walk onto the plane and 2 where you walk outside. That can't change either. So ultimately, we still have control over the airport. We own the airport. We have say over the airport and responsibility for oversight and policy by the Board of Legislators.
Okay, thank you, sir. And I'm going to give you 30 seconds in the front end, and then you can do your rebuttal.
Rob has shown that he wants to expand the airport by his prior policy. He wouldn't have wanted to renegotiate the passenger cap, which was rejected by the Board of Legislators, if he didn't want expansion. So his promises of not wanting to expand the airport is just like the promise he made before he became county executive, when he promised that he would cut your property taxes by 20%. He had a very showy press conference down in Yonkers. He handed out documents to the press. I will cut your county taxes by 20%. You haven't seen a dime of that 20%. So that's as far as a promise like that goes. As far as what happened in 2014, I said nothing about the problems that Joe Dillon had. And that was verified when I was on a radio interview with members of the press, people from the Review, Hometown Media Group, WVOX, when I said exactly at the same time that this issue came up. This is not a public policy issue. What Rob is referring to is a comment made by somebody else. But just like with the House, he wants to attach it if it's near to me. You know, you have to be standing on second base for the guy to be out, not just close enough to second base. But Rob is smart. He figures if he goes on the attack on these secondary issues, he'll hide from you the fact that this airport deal was a $15 million one-shot to balance a budget. And had he not run the county in the position the way he had, he wouldn't have needed that one shot.
Okay, thank you, sir. We're going to turn to housing in the federal government policy. We've been talking a little bit about housing in a different way. Mr. Estorino, the question will be to you. For many years, the terms of the affordable housing settlement with the federal government appear to be resolved after many years. But going forward, is it realistic to think that the county can continue to grow the supply of affordable housing? And if so, what is your plan to do so?
Absolutely. You know, the housing that is needed in this county is unquestionable. It's a matter of resources and land, but we're clearly working with developers. You know, the HUD settlement, which was before I got into office but inherited that, we were supposed to build 750. We built 900. So we don't have an obstacle with regard to a philosophy to building affordable housing. Absolutely not. But affordable housing is in many ways unaffordable to build. It's very, very expensive. So we have built over the course of my 7.5 years or so almost 1,500 units of affordable housing in Westchester. So we certainly agree that there is a need for affordable housing. How you do it and where you do it, well, you have local control, and that's one of the biggest things that I fought. When I was fighting the federal government, it was not to be obstinate. It was to stick up for our county. People like George Latimer sided with HUD. He would cut and run. That's not what we do. And we did it in a bipartisan way, by the way, because everything that we did had the approval of the Board of Legislators. We also had supervisors like Nancy Seligson, a Democrat. We had Peter Parsons in Lewisboro and others who stood with me when their communities were attacked wrongfully by the previous administration. So we were building housing, that was never the issue. But when they were attacking Westchester, calling us despicable terms, with no proof whatsoever, we knew we were right. And you're darn right I'm going to stand up for our communities every step of the way, and I did. And at times I was the lone voice. But you know what? In the end, we were proven right. We were right. Westchester zoning is not an obstacle to building affordable housing with regard to race. It is certainly not. It's an expensive place. We totally agree with that.
Okay, thank you. We'll stay on the clock because we want to have questions from the audience as well.
What Rob was proven right was that when Donald Trump became president, they gave him a rubber stamp of vindication. And he had a victory lap around the county being vindicated. Here's what that vindication cost you. $35 million worth of federal aid. That aid, CDBG money every year of $5 million, home funds of $2 million, would have meant better improvement in Sleepy Hollow, in Tarrytown, in Portchester, in Mamaroneck, in all of the urban consortium counties. We lost control of our Section 8 program because of Rob's vindication. And the fact that he stood in the schoolhouse door when he could have made a hard negotiation in that first year. He could have gone to Chuck Schumer and said, Senator Schumer, I'm a Republican, you're a Democrat, help me solve this thing in an effective way. But he didn't do that. He did the same thing that he does in terms of his relations with the state government. Whenever he sees a Democrat in charge, he attacks the Democrat. And he says that, well, we have a different philosophy. But that philosophy doesn't add one stitch of affordable housing. And you're going to need allies at different levels of government. You're not going to be able to have the luxury of standing in the schoolhouse door. Now, it gets you on Fox News. When you're running for governor, it makes the people in upstate New York very happy to see you socking it to the Obama administration. But you tell Sleepy Hollow what they lost. You tell Mamaroneck what they lost in Tarrytown because of that obstinance, when you could have negotiated that deal within the first year of your administration, but you didn't do it. The principle you stood on was a dog whistle to certain people in the base that support him, when he should have said, I'm going to be pragmatic, solve the problem, and avoid a 6-year battle that was unnecessary.
So you should apologize to every person in Westchester County who defended the county, who did not want the federal government having control over a local zoning, which is exactly what this was about. That's why Democratic administrators, that's why Democratic supervisors and elected officials stood with me. But for you to sit there and throw out George Wallace, for you to sit there and do the dog whistle thing, is truly the low of the low. And what it proves is that you don't have the fortitude to stand up to whomever is in power when they are going to attack our county. And I will never apologize for defending this county.
We're going to have to cut into Mr. Astorino's applause at the end by 4 seconds. We're going to, I'm going to turn to you with the next question. Well, let me give you the question. Okay. I'm up to the question, right? Yeah, okay, thanks. I thought I got out of order here. Okay, so conveniently, we do have a Republican administration in Washington. You guys seem to almost know what my next theme is. President Trump certainly brings his own brand of leadership to governing. That's probably an understatement. How do you see this change affecting Westchester? And please note any specific differences you see from the Obama years and how you would deal with the changes now with the Trump administration. A minute and a half, sir.
Well, President Trump is prepared to take away the tax deductibility of your local property taxes. That's bad for everybody in Westchester County. If you want to stand up for Westchester County, you'd speak out on that issue. If you're prepared to accept a $54 billion cut in domestic spending, then prepare to see a cut in bus transportation and affordable housing funding and a host of different areas that will affect Westchester County. If you're comfortable with this administration saying to the people who marched with racist and anti-Semitic phrases in Charlottesville, and when the president says, well, there's some good people on both sides, if you're prepared to stand by that, then you tell the people of Westchester County who you're standing up for. I don't think you're standing up for Westchester County when you stand behind Donald Trump on these issues. Now, I hope that this president will have a moment of clarity in which he will see things a little bit differently. Perhaps he'll put the Twitter machine aside a little bit and deal with problems as they really exist. But as long as Donald Trump continues to do the things he does, then we need to speak up about that. You're very vocal with the things he didn't like in the Obama administration. He's been as quiet as a church mouse ever since the first of the year under the Trump administration. Donald Trump criticizes Mika Brzezinski. Rob is on the radio, WR 710, making light of the terrible things that Donald Trump had said. So I think this is a critical moment to determine whether or not this President of the United States has your support, no matter what he does. I will judge him positively when I see him do something positive. Right now what I'm watching is a terrible administration and behavior, and I'm watching Rob Astorino saying nothing about it because he's an ally of Donald Trump. It's as simple as that.
2 minutes to you, sir.
This is like a Trump drinking game. How many times can you say Trump? You know, when Donald Trump does something stupid or is against Westchester in any way, I have spoken out. The state and local tax elimination for the deductions, I have already spoken out. I did 6 months ago when the idea was floated. I've already spoken to members of our congressional delegation. When he made dopey comments along the campaign, including insulting comments, I have spoken out. You can just go look it up, even though George wants to pretend it doesn't exist. Now, when President Obama was in office, I wasn't asked every day what I thought about President Obama. But the one thing that I did speak out against Mr. Obama was simply because he was attacking our county. And it wasn't just personal. He was attacking the 1 million people of our county. And it was his goal to try to get into, as the grand experiment for the nation, as they said, to try to force Westchester to abide by what the federal government wanted us to do. That was a public policy issue that I had a major disagreement on. But when Hillary Clinton announced her candidacy for president, I tweeted, "Congratulations and good luck. I'm proud that you're a Westchester resident." And I am. And you know what? We should have civility and humility in politics. And we're not seeing a lot of that in these days. But, you know, when Donald Trump does something good, I'm going to say it's good. If it's good for Westchester, and does something bad and stupid, I'm going to say it. And I have. But, you know, it's amazing how Mr. Latimer has already just, I don't know, I can't even count anymore. I was going to do the 1, 4, and then the line across to make the 5s. I'm running out of space here on all the mistruths that you've already said tonight. And George, I'm not going to let you get away with it. I know you're used to it in the past. I'm not going to let you get away with it. You've said so many things that are completely and utterly false that I'm going to make sure the record is cleared up. And if Donald Trump does something dumb, I'm going to say it, and he has. But you know what? I'm not Donald Trump. I'm Rob Astorino. I've been here 8 years. People know exactly who I am in this county and exactly what I have done. And what I have done is cut taxes and make it a lot more livable for people who are having a hard time under George Latimer's term in Westchester.
30 seconds to you, sir.
What Rob Astorino has done is follow the Trump line. If he's spoken out against Donald Trump, he must have been doing it outside the back door where nobody else heard him, because most of Westchester hasn't heard it. And Rob, in terms of lying, you have wrote the book on how to smoothly misrepresent things. And I think that's what's going to happen. You're going to have to look carefully at the things that he's said and done and how he's attached things that aren't accurate. The bottom line is this. Donald Trump has an opportunity to do good things for America, but so far he hasn't shown that's what his wish is. When Barack Obama was wrong on Common Core, I spoke up. When he was wrong on Israel, I spoke up. Let's see if Rob Astorino speaks up on these things with Donald Trump.
Okay,
Follow my Twitter.
Speak up louder, man.
The last question on before the audience questions is yours, Mr. Astorino, and we're going to sort of hypothetically pretend that Jeff Bezos, of Amazon CEO, is sitting here. I don't see him. How would you pitch him to select Westchester for Amazon's new headquarters?
I actually wrote Jeff Bezos a handwritten letter and mailed it last week because I'm extraordinarily proud of this county. This is the greatest county anyone could ever live in, over 3,300 counties in America. And we've got everything that Amazon would want and more. We have an extraordinarily diverse county. We're the 4th most diverse county in all of New York, with a growing population. We've got growing wages. We are the #1 educated county in America. 47% of our adults, 25 and over, have at least a bachelor's degree or higher. So that's a tremendous talent pool for Jeff Bezos and Amazon to pull from. And yeah, we want them because we meet all of their criteria. And so we're going after Amazon in a very aggressive way because that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to create an atmosphere, and we've held the line on taxes. We'll continue to do that. A pro-business environment. They want that. They want to know they're welcome. They don't want to be chased away like they were in the past. And we also have good corporate neighbors here. You know, I'll tell Indra at Pepsi to go talk to Jeff Bezos and say why they stayed here, because this is the #1 county in the world. And he'll know that because he has a place in New York City, so I'll be more than happy to go pick him up and bring him up to Westchester and take him around, and he can see all the wonderful sights, visit all the wonderful restaurants. Tourism is booming here, the economy is doing well here, and it's the place where Amazon should be.
And you're
And you can do all of that without having an office in New York City that wastes money for business attraction, and without knowing who actually went into that office and what actually they did there. There's no question that we have a terrific educated workforce. We have a transportation system that gives you 3 lines into New York City. We have an airport, if we control that airport in the proper ways, and that's why other corporate companies are here, because they have the access to that airport, which would change if you turned it into a heavier commercial airport. And you also have the willingness to try to target benefits from this county. And that is how this county grew under both Democratic and Republican county executives over the years. The taxation issue is a very small part in the county taxes. If you keep the county taxes level, if you think that's what he's done over the last 8 years, that's nothing compared to what the school tax burden is. So we go to Jeff and we explain to him all of the different combination of assets being right outside of New York City. That's why IBM came here, MasterCard, PepsiCo, the other major corporations, and the smaller corporations as well. And in that regard, it is a bipartisan effort to get Amazon here, not a partisan effort. It needs to have the complete involvement of everybody at all different levels of government to make that happen.
okay, and follow up to you, sir. 30 seconds.
Again, you know, we have all the assets that Amazon is looking for, and I would have him connect with the other corporations that are here, MasterCard, PepsiCo, Heineken upstairs. All of these businesses are here because they have a talent pool to draw from. We have that work-life balance that oftentimes women are making decisions now where to move businesses. That's a good thing because we have everything that a woman would want with regard to great schools, with regard to being close to home. That's the kind of decision-making that corporate America is making today. And we fit all the checks of their boxes, and that's a good thing.
Okay, we're going to now move to another section of the evening's festivities and invite Marcia back up to the stage. And we're going to turn it over to audience questions. And we probably have time, I'm figuring about probably 3 or 4 questions probably. And we'll follow with similar order. And the first question will be to you, Mr. Latimer. Once we get it.
Okay.
Welcome, how's it look from up here?
Looks pretty good. Hi, everybody. Okay. This is not working, but I think you can all hear me. Okay. Questions, ladies and gentlemen? Any questions? Alana Sweeney, I'll start with you.
Good evening, and both of you, thank you for your desire to serve the county and for having both served the county and the state. I would like to know what you believe are the key quality of life issues in Westchester County, how you would prioritize them, and what would your administration do to address them?
And this is to Mr. Latimer for a minute and a half.
I think, Alana, the one thing that we haven't talked about in this debate is the portion of Westchester County that doesn't exist on I-287 or I-684. We have in our urban centers poverty. We have people whose level of education and their ability to be employable needs to rise in order for them to have an equal opportunity. I grew up on the south side of Mount Vernon. I didn't grow up on I-287. I did work there in various assignments. And I think one of the priorities of this administration has to be to work with Yonkers and New Rochelle and Mount Vernon in a cooperative fashion to be able to identify the economic development opportunities in those urban cores and elsewhere where those cores exist, in Peekskill, in Ossining, in Portchester, in Mount Kisco. If we don't, as John F. Kennedy said, get a rising tide to raise all boats, then you will continue to have the kind of inequality in economics that will continue to stop Westchester from being as strong as it can be. And I think those efforts come with both what we do in economic development, what we do with education, and what we do with prevention of violence in those environments. And the county must be a partner with those major cities and villages in order to deal with that issue.
Okay, and your rebuttal, sir.
Well, Alana, first of all, thank you for all that you and the organization does. The 2-on-1 system is very, very important. We, my message would be, look, a growing economy is exactly what we need. And we've focused on that since day one because you can't just cut, and we have cut. We've cut to a level that we think is appropriate. We took action when we got in. But you also have to grow revenue, and that's why we're looking at assets that can perform, that can bring money into the county that you don't have to tax. Now, George might think it's meaningless that the county taxes haven't gone up. I think it's meaningful because we've been able to keep over $450 million in the pockets of small businesses, in the pockets of individuals, including our nonprofits, into their own pockets by not raising county taxes just 2%, as people would do under the property tax cap. That's meaningful. That's over $1,300 per family. So I'd rather people use that money and invest that money, whether it's a small business, creating jobs in the northern part of the county, taking an idea that they've had in their garage or in their living room and actually hiring some people. Most businesses, small businesses, are 4 people or less. You've got to help them out, and the way you do that is to give them tools, and we have by connecting them to capital, microloans and banks, but also to have certainty, to hold the line on taxes. It absolutely, positively makes a difference, and that's why we've done it. It wasn't to just do it. It's to do it because people were leaving and businesses were leaving, and the discipline is what's helped the economy continue to grow in this county. And we are growing. We're growing in population, the economy is humming, and yes, 44,000 jobs have been created in this county in the last 7 years.
30 seconds.
Thank you, sir. The 20,500 jobs that have been created are the ones that are trackable. The rest are imaginary. The issue of holding taxes level. This administration has held the general county tax levy level. And by doing so, they have not dealt with the sewer issue, and they haven't dealt with the equalization problem, which Andy O'Rourke tried to tackle back in the 1990s. And they certainly haven't done anything about the shift from commercial to residential property. So when you say that you've kept taxes low, I will tell you that residents in the city of Rye, residents in Dobbs Ferry, and a host of other places have had major tax increases during these last 8 years.
Second question from the audience.
Deb Malone.
Hi. Indian Point and economic development was addressed earlier in this debate. I represent the Hudson Valley Gateway Chamber of Commerce. Indian Point is in our backyard. Our chamber represents over 500 businesses where the closure of the plants will be most accurately felt. Most of these businesses are small business. I would like to ask what your administration will do to support and spur the growth of small businesses in the towns and villages surrounding the IP plants and assist in the necessary improvements in the infrastructure which can attract new business and development to our area. And let me just add one thing, that neither our business community nor the county of Westchester were asked to serve on the state task force.
But this is to you, sir.
No, that's a good point. And so the task force itself that George is touting is meaningless. It has no strength in law. It means nothing. But the secret that I'm fighting to have put in place does have the weight of law. It does force mitigating factors. It does force public opinion and public questions to be answered. It does force them to come up with a plan. Do you know what the state's plan right now to replace Indian Point is? Neither do they. It's turn off the lights, conserve energy, and maybe run a 333-mile cable from Quebec, so we're now going to import our energy, down the Hudson River, along the bed. There'll be no environmental issues on that one. And even if that's successful in 3 years, and we know it will not be, even if it is, that's only half the replacement energy. So how do we say to Amazon, come on in, we got everything you need? Well, that's a biggie that we don't have. And how do we tell small businesses, your rates are going to go through the roof? And how do we tell seniors and others, your rates are going to go through the roof, your taxes are going to go through the roof? So it's a huge, huge issue. And the task force is nothing. It means nothing by the law, nothing. Now, with regard to small businesses, again, we can go back and forth, and George is just playing the Albany politician gobbledygook. This is what you say when you don't have a record to defend. His record on taxes is atrocious. It has driven people out. He continuously raises taxes on everybody. And he's talking about jobs. George, look, the job of the county executive is to go out and get business. It's to meet with business people. The last time you held a private sector job, according to your own report, was with a rotary phone on your desk. It was 1998. A lot has changed in that time. You have to be proactive.
Okay.
Deb, obviously the county executive is more interested in making an attack on me than to answer your question. The first week, if I'm county executive elect, I'm going to come and meet with you and the people in your group so we can talk about these things. The secret lawsuit is a dead end. If it passes, all it will do is change the process by which discussion is going to happen. What you need are real commitments from the state government and the county government and the federal government to put resources into your community to deal with the on-the-ground circumstances. The people who are meeting already today, not the task force established by the governor, but the efforts that are being made by your town supervisor and the village mayor and the superintendent of schools, that's the engine. There has to be a plan developed, and the county has to be a part of it. If Rob Astorino has come to your meetings already and sat with you and brought his people in, then he's doing something to help you. But if he hasn't done yet, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be with you every step of the way to try to make sure you get that which you need. And let me say one other thing on all of this. As far as taxing people, Rob Astorino raised taxes 52%, promised a 20% tax decrease, which he didn't deliver. He can laugh at the microphone, but here's the reality of it. During my tenure in the state government, we've cut income taxes on everybody in this room, unless you're making, $800,000 a year, in which case you don't need a tax cut, right? But the reality is this: the lies that get spread in a campaign can't hide the fact that you're dealing in a county government that is going to face a day of reckoning very soon, and you know that. And that day of reckoning is going to be very difficult when those labor contracts come due and some judge authorizes that a big payment is made. If you don't address that now, if you're too busy running around the state trying to tell everybody what a great governor you'll be, you won't be in your backyard to deal with your problem, or in your backyard to deal with your problem. That's what I intend to do for the next 4 years.
And 30 seconds to you.
Well, I mean, it's preposterous what he's saying, and just go by the audited reports by the outside auditors. Our debt is down $100 million. It's down 7.5%. We've paid down debt, we've refinanced. We have sewer district levy is down, refuse district levy is down. We're managing in the appropriate way. In fact, the controller just came out with another report today, said, can't find anything wrong in the sewer districts, you're doing a great job there. So we have managed this county the way you're supposed to manage it without raising taxes. That's the biggest difference between the two of us. One won't raise them, one has already.
No, I have not made that commitment. That's Rob Astorino's mailings that has made that commitment.
You said it on FiOS. We'll go play it.
I did not. Let's go back and look at the videotape. Did not say that, Rob. But what you've done is you've been able to take a lie and repeat it enough that people will believe it. That you were going to cut taxes 20%. Didn't do that, Rob, did you? Why don't you tell the truth?
Yeah,
never meant
that
to
was
honor
in
that
2000. That was in 2005.
Oh, was there a time length on your promises?
Yes.
What about your airport promise? Is there a time sensitive element to your time on that one? No, I don't think so, Rob. Okay. You're being challenged for the first time by somebody who can go toe to toe with you, and it's a little frustrating for you, isn't it?
No,
Rob?
not
I'm
at
sorry
all.
about that.
Not at all.
Oh, no.
So in 2009, I said I was going to stop the tax madness, and I did. It's indisputable. The tax levy has not been raised.
The tax levy is not your taxes.
The tax levy has not been raised at all.
Look at your tax bill from 2011 to 2017, and that will determine if your taxes were held stable. Don't take my word for it, but don't take his. George, look at your taxes.
George, I'm trying to jump in at
Lee, this is your debate that you wanted. You're getting it.
George,
You're getting the debates you wanted.
I wish my classes were as live.
George, you are lucky I cut taxes. Do you know how much you owe if I wasn't county executive?
I don't know anything, Rob. My young Republican friends can clap as much as they want, Rob. I don't owe any property taxes. I'm fully paid at 47 Rainwright Street.
Okay.
And I'll repeat that again, just for my young Republican friends who are happy to clap.
Fortunately, you both have 2 minutes in a closing statement coming up fairly soon. I'm trying to imagine what might be said during that time. Marcia, another question?
Okay, questions. Any other questions? Doug?
Thank you both for being here. I have to say, I think we're very fortunate to have two very strong candidates in this race, so thank you for that. You know, there's a big debate in Washington about immigration, and it's strange to be in a county election, and I have friends who are talking to me and are very concerned about immigration issues. And I wonder if you both might comment on your views about what's happening with immigration.
And this will go to Mr. Lambert.
And just if anyone didn't hear, the question is about immigration.
So the federal government under Donald Trump, sorry to mention his name, he's the president, this is his policies, has sent a chilling message to people who are in this country. And that chilling message is that he would like to deport you. So what I think we have to do in Westchester County is not try to be Joe Arpaio, the disgraced and pardoned sheriff of Maricopa County in Arizona. I think we need to do our job in serving the people who live in this county, deal with problems as they arise. My intent is to, if I'm county executive, to create an executive order that's done in concert with the local police officials, sit, talk with them, get their input, meet with the legislators, meet with the people in the immigration community, not to do it in a private room with 5 or 6 people and do it as an interreaction to whatever the Board of Legislators is doing. And then with that executive order, offer to the Board of Legislators the opportunity to codify it in some law that would follow. But I think what happens in all of these things is that we try very hard to deal in a practical world while there is philosophical positions that are framed around us. My tenure as chairman of the Board of Legislators, where we cut the county tax levy from the day that I left, from the day that I entered, he misrepresented those numbers. Once again, he's got to go back to his little detail book and come up with the hard numbers. What we did during that tenure is to do things that were on a practical basis, not on a partisan basis. And that's what we need to do in the next 4 years if we want Westchester County to grow and to be strong.
You're stuck on Albany math. $329 million was the tax levy when you started. $480 million is what you collected when you left. That's addition in anyone's.
That's not during my tenure as county board chairman.
No,
That's a fact that's misstated.
You did. No, I'm going to give you this. You did cut taxes once, and then you went back forward again.
The tax
took it
levy
away.
3 consecutive years.
Okay, then,
On immigration. Doug, this is obviously an issue that Republicans and Democrats have failed in Washington. Republican presidents, Democratic presidents, and Republican Congresses and Democratic Congresses. And there absolutely needs to be immigration reform in this country. There's not even a question about it. We are a thriving nation because of our immigrants. We're a thriving county because of our immigrants. There's not even a question about that. We also need border security, though, because without security on your borders, you are no nation. So the issues in Washington have to be taken care of. But we have to deal with them here sometimes because their policies or lack of them affect us locally. Now, the Immigration Protection Act, or Sanctuary County Bill, is really what it was. We sat down with Democrats and Republicans and community-based organizations to try to come to something that everyone was comfortable with. But we said from the outset, we cannot violate federal law. Okay, it went on until the point where it violated federal law. And so the county attorney ruled that it violated federal law. It would have absolutely put $13 million in jeopardy in public safety grants. But more than that, over the vast objection of law enforcement, it would have made our county more dangerous. This was not protecting the peaceful, undocumented immigrant living among us and whose kids go to school. That was not what this was about. This was saying that policy would be the county, in our jail and our police, cannot cooperate in various circumstances with the federal government. And so when there is a convicted criminal in our jail, or somebody waiting charges for serious crimes, by the way, sexual misconduct, grand larceny, assault, that we should release them into the community. Even the Legal Aid Society said that is crazy, and they opposed the bill too. That's why I vetoed the law, and we signed an executive order.
Last question.
Last question?
No rebuttal.
Oh, sorry. You're right. I knew I made a mistake once, and I didn't know when it was going to show up.
I find it fascinating that Rob cares about $13 million in lost federal aid, but he didn't seem to care about $35 million in lost federal aid because of the Hudson. The reality of it is, it depends on who the president is. He very much wants to adhere to what Donald Trump's Washington does, and he was very much happy to oppose whatever the Barack Obama's Washington did. The original question about immigration goes forward from here. Not what we argued about over the last month and a half. I'm not a member of the County Board of Legislators, but going forward, if I'm county executive, I said I would convene the key players in the game. We would craft an executive order that would be intelligent, and it would be something that could be accepted across the board in the community, through the legal community as well. Something better than what Rob has done now.
And the last question.
Is there a rebuttal?
No, that was.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That was the rebuttal. Don't try to confuse me.
Any other questions? Yes.
I'm concerned about taxes, I'm concerned about fair housing, but right now I'm really concerned about our public health issue, which is gun violence in our country. And I know that the gun shows have been approved again to happen here in Westchester County. I don't quite understand why that is. I'd like to know, Mr. Estorino, if you could explain your rationale for that, Mr. Latimer, what your policy approach would be
are an extraordinarily diverse population, over 1 million people. We are diverse religiously, ethnically, politically, and all of those opinions have to be taken into consideration. The gun show that was permitted back in the county center is there because people asked for it. We also follow the most strict guidelines that are endorsed by the Attorney General, Eric Schneiderman. The state also permits gun shows on their property. As Mr. Latimer knows, when he looks out his legislative office building, it's right in the convention center below him. So everything that is at the gun show is strictly enforced. Everything is tagged. You can't walk out with a pistol. You cannot walk out with a handgun. You have to have a strict background check, which is provided there on site. And weeks later, you have to go pick up your gun from a gun dealer. We have had in this county a surge in pistol permits, especially from women, for a variety of reasons. But we have to respect, and I understand some people are uncomfortable with guns. Some people like them for various reasons, whether it's target shooting or hunting or whatever. But we have to respect that. And the process did play out. And we had 8,000 people attend that gun show. Not one incident there, 8,000 people. And what I don't like is when people, like George, demonize the 8,000 gun owners who attended and everyone else, law-abiding citizens, demonize them and in many ways equate them with that psychopathic madman in Las Vegas and elsewhere who shot people, who killed, and would never abide by any law no matter what it was.
The issue here is, what are your values and what do you prioritize? If Rob prioritized opposition to anti-Semitism or racism, then he could have very easily, while he allowed for the gun shows, he could have said, built it into the contract, no Nazi memorabilia, no Confederate memorabilia. But he didn't do that. He didn't say to the Jewish and the African American community of this county, I stand with you, not with that. Now, the 8,000 people that come to the gun show are law-abiding people, and they are practicing something that is permitted by the Constitution. But if they were into pornography, pornography is also allowed under the free speech rule. Would you want a pornography convention? And would you argue by saying, well, there's 5,000 people that are going to go to see pornography, and it's profitable. Oh my goodness, let's do everything if it's profitable. Andy Spano did the right thing when he canceled the gun show because it was in the aftermath of Columbine. And whether the 8,000 people that come or don't come are law-abiding citizens and know how to handle themselves, just one person can wreak a tremendous amount of havoc. Now, follow Rob's logic. He says, don't worry about the gun show. The kind of guns that were used in Las Vegas, they can't be shown at the gun show. Why is that? Because of the SAFE Act passed by the state. But if he's governor, he's going to repeal the SAFE Act. If he can do that, then those guns will be legal at that gun show. And if we don't do something about the bump-up stocks, you can go to the gun show and under Governor Astorino, get yourself the weaponry that Paddock did, get the bump-up stock, and decide some fine day to go to the top of 44 South Broadway. It won't be the 8,000 law-abiding citizens. It'll be one maniac. But one maniac killed 60 people.
Okay, so now that his gobbledygook is over, let me tell you about this. First of all, there was no Nazi paraphernalia. You know what they were? There were 7 books on World War II that, of course, included Nazis because it was Nazi Germany. All of those books are in every public library, every public school, and in fact in most synagogues in Westchester. So he's trying to make it into a Nazi rally, which is again disgusting to what is happening with the people who go there. And by the way, if he felt so strongly about this, Sandy Galiff, an assemblywoman, has a bill and had a bill in the state legislature to forbid gun shows on any public property. You know where George Latimer was on that? Nowhere. He didn't co-sponsor it. He didn't do a thing about it.
Because I'm in the Senate, not in the Assembly, Rob.
No, he didn't do a thing about it when you were. And you know what?
Rob,
if you,
please,
George, wait a second. As you're a senator,
8 years.
George, you're a senator. You look outside your window, there's a gun show in the state convention center. Have you put anything forward to prohibit it?
Because the people of Albany
No, he hasn't.
But the people of Westchester feel differently, Rob.
Take a deep breath. We're now at the point of the closing statements. Big pause, and the first by prior agreement, the closing statement goes to Rob Astorino first for 2 minutes, and then Mr. Latimer for 2 minutes.
Well, first of all, thank you for being here tonight. I appreciate it very, very much. Look, we have had a lot of challenges in our 8 years dealing with a deficit that we inherited, dealing with a HUD situation, which we ended up abiding by, complying with, and winning on, not letting the federal government take over our zoning in Westchester County. We have held the line on property taxes. In fact, it is so important to do so because the people in this county have been struggling for years, continuously. And I'm talking about the senior citizen, I'm talking about small business owners, I'm talking about the vast middle class. And the people of this county needed a break, and we put fiscal discipline in this county and put this county back on the right direction. We are booming in this county. We have a tourism boom with film and people coming all over the place to come in here. We have businesses coming to Westchester again. We have a population increase because this is the greatest place on the face of the planet. And I'm proud to serve as county executive. And I don't take these challenges lightly because the old way of doing business of just, what do you need, raise taxes, that is what put this county in ruin. We're on firm financial footing right now. Firm financial footing. We finished last year with a $1.5 million surplus. We have not raised taxes. We will not raise taxes. People need a break, and they know that certainty from me. You go in the other direction, you know what you're going to get. You're going to get the tax increases that he gave you as a county legislator. You're going to get the litany of taxes that he supported and voted for in Albany. And you're going to get that mindset that the taxpayer really doesn't matter because the special interests are the ones that matter. I bring to this job a passion from day one. I can't wait to go back to work every single day. And I would be honored to have your vote for a third and final term.
And we'll close the statement from Mr. Ladner.
Rob Astorino loves this county, but about 4 weeks after this election, if he's successful, he's going to be running for governor, and you know that, and I know that. He's not going to be here for the next 4 years to deal with these problems as they amount. He's not going to be here to deal with the labor obligations that he's ignored. He's not going to be here when he says he has a $1.5 million surplus. That's because you took $15 million from the reserve fund to plug it in for a one-shot deal at the airport that the Board of Legislators intelligently rejected. We're dealing with operating departments like the planning department and the DPW that are shells of what they used to be. They can't function to do the things they did under Andy O'Rourke or under Al Del Bello because of the way Rob Astorino has managed this county. And yet, in the snap of a finger, the problems that we're going to face are going to get infinitely more difficult as these financial chickens come home to roost. My record as a chairman of the Board of Legislators was to cut the county tax levy. And I never said to cut your county property taxes, because cutting the county levy did not cut the county taxes for 20 or 30% of the people in this county. There are other factors that went into that. And when you lie about that, and you lie about who owns a piece of property, and you lie about what was said in 2014, you tell the people of Westchester, and you tell the people in New York State, because they're watching this race very closely, and what you say. You're going to say anything you need to win an election. Well, I'm not. I'm not afraid to lose, and I'm not afraid to win. I'm not afraid to govern, and if I'm elected, I will govern this county for 4 years. I will work my best because I love this county too. What I don't love is the rhetoric that I've heard from Rob over the last 8 years. I put myself forward because you need to have an alternate voice. You need to have an intelligent voice, not somebody who's telling you what you want to hear and then turns around, see you later, alligator. I'm landing in Buffalo to go to Cheektowaga and Lancaster. I ask for your support because I will do this job for the next 4 years, not run away from this job in 4 months.
Thank you. Thank both of you for a very spirited and lively discussion, very informative. And I certainly wish you both the best on Election Day. You know, we're with Maris Poll, as many of you know, and it's nice to see real people. We talk to real people, but so do the phones. So it's nice to see an audience and with opinions. I've been told by Marcia, who has mentioned to me that we need to take a photo of both of you before a smiling photo, perhaps not.
So
Hopefully.
stand up.
But I'd like to thank the audience and the business council.
Big, good job. Sorry about that. Nature of the beast.
Okay, Marcia.
Yeah, and I want